What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego back with some more boxing. Just got finished watching Jean Pascal versus Lucian Bute, and I'm back with my post-fight commentary. So as far as the fight, it was pretty decent. I kind of expected a little bit more fireworks. This fight has been a fight that has been built up. Both fighters claim Canada, and it's supposed to be instant fireworks. And in the fight, we've seen a really tentative, very hesitant, and in my opinion, I feel like Lucian Bute, one time he was touted as being this kind of like Gennady Golovkin, what Gennady Golovkin is right now. Even though Gennady Golovkin beat Lucian Bute in the amateurs, he was the Gennady Golovkin a couple years back where he had this dangerous power, and people were even talking about Lucian Bute and Andre Ward. Now, you look at it after the Carl Froch beating, he just seems psychologically damaged, and I think Andre Ward would have no problems. I always thought Ward would have beat Lucian Bute, but I think that even more so looking how he was in this fight. It's just crazy to me to see these power punchers who are on the quick rise, the fast track, and people are like jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, Lucian Bute. I think Ellie Sekback was one of the people who was really an advocate for Lucian Bute, and I have nothing against the dude. But you got to show me. That's the philosophy I have. Show me. It's not going to be just because everyone's saying it, all of a sudden, I'm a believer. You know what I mean? You got to show and prove. So, Lucian Bute, he didn't look good in this fight. He just seemed too hesitant. He didn't use his height to his advantage. Like, if you look at his frame, he's a pretty lengthy, tall dude. And I thought he should have been popping out the jab. Even if you're not going to commit to it fully, just keep that punch out. Just keep the punch out there. But a stiff jab would obviously be preferable. And especially against a guy that fights like Jean Pascal, you could tell Jean Pascal, especially being trained by Roy Jones Jr., he looks up to Roy Jones Jr. He kind of tries to mimic and emulate little Roy Jones Jr. subtle moves. And now that he's implemented and recruited Roy Jones Jr., I'm sure he wants to impress his idol by having some of the same fun that Roy Jones Jr. The thing with it is, Roy Jones Jr. was a freak of nature type athlete. He was just very athletically gifted. He had crazy power for the weight division he was mostly fighting at. He had the speed from hell. So, to me, Roy Jones Jr., there is only one Roy Jones Jr., and he could do things that other guys still to this day have not been able to duplicate in terms of just the crazy angles and the cockiness, the confidence, and the ability to scrap. So, again, Jean Pascal, he seemed at times kind of cocky and bored, similar to if you watch Yuriorkis Gamboa. Gamboa seems like he gets in these ruts sometimes where he becomes bored with the fights, like he knows he's athletically gifted or he's winning the fight, so he'll do just enough to win, or he just looks really uninterested in during the round. And I think towards the end of the fight, Jean Pascal kind of showed that. He took unnecessary risks in the 12th round, which made for an exciting round because late in the fight, I couldn't tell if he was playing possum, especially in the 12th round. He was being bullied in the corner and taking a lot of flush shots. And the thing I still don't understand with certain boxers is, what the fuck is the point? If you handedly are winning and you're dominating the fight, why even make it look better for the opponent by giving them rounds and potentially putting yourself in a position like Mickey Bay against John Molina Jr., where John Molina Jr. was thoroughly being beat, and based on showboating, you put him right back into the fight and he was able to stop you. I just don't understand that. It seems like people would learn from the Mickey Bays and the Anderson Silvas of the world, where they're showboating to the degree where you're not Roy Jones Jr. You might get caught trying to do too much and trying to showboat. And I understand warriors and pleasing the fans, but I just don't think you should take unnecessary risks to the point where you might get caught. I mean, Lucian Bute is known as a puncher, so you might get caught and you're letting him bully and letting his hands go and making him look good and giving him the championship rounds. I just don't see what that does for your stock. If anything, it's putting you in a position where you might get TKO'd or stopped yourself. So I thought that was kind of dumb on Jean Pascal's part, but it made for exciting TV, at least because you didn't know what was going to happen because he decided to fight like that. But I thought he definitely won. I got to say, I'm not really feeling HBO's commentary as of recently. Just in the last, I don't know, 8 months to a year, just some crazy things come out of that crew's mouth. Early in the fight, Jim Lampley was saying Jean Pascal has a face portrait of his face etched into the back of his head because he did that before, and he's like, he has it again. He had the fucking World Star. If you guys go to World Star Hip Hop, he had the World Star logo like faded into his head. It wasn't his face. How can you confuse a fucking World Star logo, which is a crown, with Jean Pascal's face? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Another thing I didn't agree with Letterman's score. I think Harold Letterman was doing it. I didn't agree with his scorecard. I thought Jean Pascal was thoroughly winning, but there was a couple rounds where it was really close, where it could have went either way. But which round was it? There was a round early where I thought that Bute won that round. Round 5 was very close. I think it could have went either way. Pascal overall looked more confident throughout the fight, but there was a couple little rounds where I'm like, okay, I'll give Bute that round. I think it was round 3. Yeah, it was round 3. I thought that was a Bute round. He landed some nice punches, and most of all, Pascal had control over the fight. I really like Roy Jones Jr. as a trainer. I think he's awesome. Obviously, I think he's one of the greatest fighters of all time, and he was one of my favorites growing up, so I just really like him in general, but I like him as a trainer. He seems very motivated and passionate. Max Kellerman went into the corner and was picking his brain, asking him what he did, and he was saying that he gave Jean Pascal some new things to implement, and he's like, yeah, oh, I just taught him that yesterday. And he taught Jean Pascal some new things, and Jean Pascal was able to implement it in today's fight. So overall, a solid performance by Jean Pascal. I think, again, he took some unnecessary risk. He was mostly dominant. Lucian Bute, he just looks shot-worn. He looks like that Carl Froch beating really psychologically damaged him. I mean, going from a power puncher, like a feared puncher, and somebody who's supposed to be that dude, he just looks like a shell of his former self, to be perfectly honest. And like I said, I have nothing against Lucian Bute, but I know some people were heavy on the Lucian Bute wagon, and he didn't really impress. And then at the end, they're talking about a motherfucking rematch for what? I mean, it looked like Jean Pascal was doing whatever he wanted when he wanted, and the only time Bute was really, really in the fight would be probably the rounds where he was playing possum and allowing Lucian Bute to have his way and unload shots, because he did that earlier in the fight too, where he just unloaded with a ton of shots. He was playing possum, and he was just showboating. So it was in the round 11 also, where Pascal was against the ropes, act like he was getting hurt or hit, and it looked like he might be getting hurt and hit, and I'm like, damn. And then he just exploded with his offense and took the round back. So I would have gave Bute a few rounds, maybe 1 or 2, but nothing that warrants a rematch. He didn't do anything. Even in the Chavez Jr. versus Sergio Martinez, we know for a fact Martinez was hurt in that 12th round. He looked stunned, like, what the fuck just happened? And he was like hanging on towards the end of the fight in the 12th round, even though Martinez boxed beautifully around him and beat up on Chavez Jr. for 11.5 rounds. He was genuinely hurt and tore some ligaments, and he was all fucked up in the Chavez Jr. fight. But this fight, rematch for what? I'd rather see him fight Kovalev or fight Stevenson for Canada's supremacy or whatever. I'd rather see a fight like that. Lucian Bute, he just seems like definitely on the decline. The Carl Froch took something out of him. And this happens in the sport of boxing. So I'm anxious to see other power punchers like Lucas Matisse. How is he going to look in his next fight? Because some of these power punchers, once that mystique, that aura surrounding them and their power has been removed from a Danny Garcia or a Carl Froch or whoever, sometimes they're never the same. Like, okay, people realize this motherfucker is human. He can be beat. Like, you know he's human, but just seeing them beat and what happened to like the Lucian Butes of the world and the Carl Froch fight, just seeing it makes people more confident, and it probably hurts the confidence of that power puncher. But Lucian Bute, I just don't really see him beating the top guys. Kovalev would have murdered him tonight, and I think Stevenson probably would have stopped him as well. As far as Jean Pascal, overall solid performance. He did what he had to do. I think he needs to work more on just. There's a couple parts where he was trying so hard to be like Roy Jones Jr. I felt he was just kind of fighting a little bit sloppy, and you're not going to be able to do some of that bullshit with a Kovalev or a Stevenson. Like just in round 10, I think it was, he was just not looking at Bute. And like I said, you can't do that with everyone. You can't play around and stuff like that. And he needs to crispen up some of his punches, make them more short and compact, and work on his accuracy, because he was swinging wildly and trying to lunge and not missing the target. That exerts a lot of energy. So overall, it was a good night of boxing. I have no problem with the fight. I just don't think it warrants a rematch. Let me know what you guys think. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.